Welcome to episode 29 of Skyrim Cut Content. In today's episode, I'll be discussing Tasius Tragus, an NPC that I pointed out during my last video on the cutting room floor mod. As I stated there, the story of Tasius is a very weird one, but an interesting one as well. There are actually 4 different NPCs we'll need to look at today, in order to fully comprehend what happened. The first one of these NPCs is a man by the name of Voltus Agallon. If that name sounds completely foreign to you, good. There are many internal references to him in the game, such as scripts and dialogue topic names, but we actually have something much better than that. Unused dialogue basically completely explaining what his role in the game was supposed to be.
With the Emperor's arrival in Skyrim now a certainty, the Penitus Oculatus will need to begin its preparations immediately. Security is being handled by a man named Voltus Agallon. His job is to travel throughout Skyrim and ensure each city is prepared for Mead's visit. You must find and kill Voltus Agallon. Doing so will disrupt security sufficiently that we will be able to, eventually, get to the Emperor. Agallon is an efficient man, and will certainly already have begun his tour of Skyrim. Unfortunately, we don't have his schedule. So, you've got 2 options. Try to find Agallon yourself, somewhere on his route between the major cities, or find and steal his schedule. You'll find that in his office, in the Legion stronghold of Dragonbridge. It's your choice. Now go, and may Sithis speed you.
So for those that aren't quite following yet, this is unused dialogue belonging to Astrid, the leader of Skyrim's Dark Brotherhood. This unused dialogue is related to the quest Breaching Security. In the final game, Astrid doesn't explain this quest to the player, but instead has Gabriella do it. The dialogue is pretty close to the final version, albeit with 2 main changes. First off, the inclusion of Voltus Agallon. In the final game, he's been replaced by Gaius Maro. But the more interesting change is the fact that Dragonbridge is referred to as a Legion stronghold. What else is there to say about Voltus Agallon? Well, nothing really. We know that he was a man, probably an Imperial, that was affiliated with the Imperial Legion, and likely held a high rank. He originally was to check up on security for the Emperor's arrival. This role was later reworked and given to Gaius Maro. This is all known due to remaining dialogue, because Agallon no longer exists in NPC form, so his clothes and everything else about him are forever unknown to us. Now, while I believe that Agallon is the first step of this evolution we're looking at, we have to move up 1 NPC and take a look at the second step, which is Tasius Tragus. Tasius, despite being an NPC not present in the final game, still gets mentioned by an NPC that is. Varnius Junius, a man living in Dragonbridge, can greet you with this line.
Mind you don't cross Tasius. He's in charge around here.
The line establishes Tasius as a sort of authority in Dragonbridge. So why is that? Well, let's take a look at him and find out. Despite Tasius having no remaining dialogue, he still has some other interesting hints. First off, he's still present in the list containing all the residents of Dragonbridge. He's also still part of the crime faction Hafingar, and the town Dragonbridge factions. So if you weren't convinced yet that he was meant to appear there, you should be now. Stat-wise, he's just an average level 4 NPC, but his class is pretty special. Soldier Imperial, not Guard. So, like Voltus Agallon before him, it seems that he was meant to be affiliated with the Legion at the very least. It's not really clear what exactly his daily routine would have been, as he doesn't have any unique AI packages, but at least he has a unique appearance. He has a fully unique face, and he would have worn scaled horn armor with matching boots, and he would have carried an iron dagger. But now for the most interesting part. Of all Skyrim's unused NPCs, Tasius has the most relationships by far. He still has a relationship with Varnius Junius, for example, who I mentioned is the person who still talks about Tasius in the final game. Tasius is marked as Varnius' boss, and their confidants. That's pretty interesting, but what's more interesting is his relationship with Veda, the local innkeeper. They are marked as boyfriend and girlfriend. As you may know, in the final game, Veda is actually courting, you guessed it, Gaius Maro. But delving even further, you'll find that he has the same relationship marker with Julianne Lilviv, who's basically Veda's trainee. But this relationship is marked as secret, so we would have had a bit of a love triangle going on between them, which is something that isn't carried over into the final game. While that's interesting and all, his most important relationship is yet to come. Tasius' fourth and final relationship marker has him tied to General Tullius himself. This, I think, really shows how important he once was. General Tullius is marked as his boss, and they're confidants of each other. Just to clarify this significance, the only other member of the Legion that's actually tied to General Tullius by a relationship marker is Legate Rica. I think it's fairly safe to assume that Tasius played the same role as Voltus Agallon. He would have been a high-ranking member of the Legion, but unlike Agallon, he was actually integrated in the world a bit better. He likely lived in the quote-unquote Imperial Legion outpost of Dragon Bridge, where he interacted with the townsfolk and had relations with them. Varnius Junius answered to him, while he answered to General Tullius. I personally feel he would have been a great addition to the game, but if you haven't noticed it yet, it seems that Tasius was repurposed into two NPCs in the final game, Gaius Maro, and to a lesser extent, his father, Commander Maro. Tasius' relation with Veda and Agallon's security checking roles are all given to Gaius, while the role of a high-ranking Imperial member living in Dragon Bridge lines up with Commander Maro. My problem is that neither of these two feel integrated with the rest of the world. They only seem important in the Dark Brotherhood questline and no one even mentions them outside of it. Now, lastly, I briefly mentioned that Tasius doesn't have any remaining dialogue, but I do have an idea as to what the player might have said to him. This is unconfirmed of course, but the last greeting line of Varnius Junius actually has an unused topic attached to it. This means that the player originally could have spoken to him directly. The player would have said this line in particular: "Are you a mercenary? You won't find much work here." This means one of two things. Either Varnius looked a lot tougher originally, or this question would have been directed at Tasius. I mean, look at the two. Which one would you mistake for a mercenary? Once again, I have to state that this is a complete guess by me, and it may not hold any truth to it, but it's the best that I can give you. And that's about all there is to say about Tasius Tragus, Voltus Agallon, and what became of them. Let me know in the comments if you would have preferred to see Tasius in your game, or if you like the Maros just fine, and I'll see you in the next episode.